Accountability has always been a controversial subject in the political history of Pakistan, given the general belief that it is used for political victimization. Late Benazir Bhutto and her spouse Asif Ali Zardari are classic examples. The latter remained behind the bars for more than a decade. Now being the president of the country, he has still not been able to get away from his past. A former senior official of the Election Commission told DawnNews that NAB once pressurized them to register fraud cases against Ms. Bhutto and Mr. Zardari.
I remember that in late 2005, the hawks of the National Accountability Bureau approached the Pakistan Election Commission. They are of the view that the statement accounts submitted by Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto and Mr. Asif Ali Zardari were false, and they pressurized the Election Commission of Pakistan to register the case against them. And we are of the view that Election Commission should not take necessary action, disciplinary action against them, because if the Election Commission of Pakistan took action against them, the neutrality and impartiality will be affected.
The then NAB chairman Shahid Aziz agreed with the Election Commission's viewpoint, but after much convincing. Now that the fate of President Zardari is again in the limelight, following the Supreme Court's judgment against the NRO, some claim that with sudden termination of the ordinance, President Zardari should be considered ineligible for the presidential elections he already won in 2008. But none of the presidential candidates ever raised objections against his candidature.
No contesting candidate raised any kind of the objection against Mr. Asif Ali Zardari, because at that time there were the 2 or 3, because on the Pakistan Muslim League the candidate was Mr. Mashhad Hussain, and Mr. Justice Sayyid Siddiqui was the candidate of the Pakistan Muslim League N. Both these candidates did not raise any objection against the Asif Ali Zardari.
The former ECP official says once the commission accepts nomination papers of any presidential candidate, no appeal could be filed against him.
In our constitution, there is written that there is no provision of the disqualification for the candidature of the presidential election. When the nomination paper were accepted by the returning officer, so there is no appeal against the decision of the returning officer. So the Chief Election Commission has accepted his nomination paper. So his eligibility, no one can challenge about his eligibility.
He explains a constitutional petition may be filed in the Supreme Court, but before the presidential election. The government believes President Zardari enjoys immunity and cannot be proceeded against in any court of law. But there are people who are challenging the immunity he enjoys. And one cannot rule out the possibility if this case is taken up by the Apex Court, which recently struck down the NRO. Shahzad Raza, DawnNews, Islamabad.